So I'm the CEO and co-founder. I'm joined by Luke Ernie from Imagine Products. They're the folks that do ShotPut Studio software. Patrice Gutebel, who's my co-founder and VP of products, and Elisa Hecker, who is our head of customer success. What we'll be talking about is kind of how to bring in media, how to search it better, process it better, and perhaps most importantly, repurpose it for a variety of outputs. So that's kind of the agenda for today. We'll probably take about 5 minutes on each phase of the workflow, and we will be able to answer questions as we go. Whoever isn't presenting will be able to jump into the Q&A. We also don't mind actually punctuating the agenda with, a minute or two to answer some questions. So feel free to use both the Q&A and the chat sections of Zoom to ask your questions at any time. So our big picture thesis is that all video is becoming searchable. That is increasingly true in theory, but when you actually go out and talk to people about how they work, a surprising amount, well above 90%, is not searchable today. So it hasn't been tagged by anybody. Nobody has pointed a cool AI engine at it. And so it's just sitting there. And we think that is increasingly unsustainable. The need for video is growing very rapidly. There are these demands from social media, from post-production, from promos. People need new stuff and they want you to extract it from the stuff that you have. And the cycle time on that has gone from, as the slide says, from months down to weeks and days and really hours in the most recent case. So most of our customers tell us that the marketing department or its equivalent will call them up and just say, hey, I need a clip of our CEO doing this, or I need a clip of the governor doing that. And they're totally unprepared for that unless they have some kind of tool to search with. The other thing that we're seeing is that on-premise is increasingly crucial. Obviously, people have done what they can with the cloud, and it is still a growing resource in our industry. But there are several things that are just undeniably better about on-prem. One is higher bandwidth and lower latency, so you can edit the high res straight from your workstation. You don't have to be constantly uploading and downloading. Cost is a huge advantage because if you start parking 4K and 8K files up in the cloud, you're going to go broke doing it. It just doesn't make sense. But there's more. There's security. For instance, large vendors like Amazon and Adobe have it in their terms of service that if you run media through their systems, they reserve the right to do what they want with it, including training Gen AI models, training large language models, and you kind of don't know where your footage is going to turn out if you do it that way. You're kind of stuck. You like the benefit of the services, but if you're using them, you're really exposing your content to all this reuse. And it's not just about the content, it's also about the integrity of what you're doing across all aspects of the work. So things like if you create your own AI model that you train with the faces of actors in your series, that could easily end up out there in the wild. You may or may not want it to, but essentially anything that you do in the cloud is at higher risk of getting shared or repurposed without your knowledge compared to doing it on premise. That's just been a huge thing for a lot of our customers, especially in the last couple of years. So the core functionality of what we do, it's a media management system with AI built in. It's very simple to use. And we have most recently the ability to do what's called semantic search. So essentially, you don't just have tags about, oh, it's that person or it's that object, but it's more like this is what's happening in the clip. And so we're going to do a deeper dive on that today, spend some time really on these semantic search features. But in general, you can interact with it in a much more natural way and with a lot less work than you would have with traditional MAMs, where you had to sit there and tag everything and then search for the exact tags. This is all stuff that Patrice and Elisa will be covering as we go forward. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Elisa, who will start off with the MAM demo. Elisa, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone and do a quick demo of Axel. We're going to have a few minutes at the end for questions, but if there's any questions while we're demoing, please feel free to type them in the chat. So as you're going to see now, Axel runs on a web browser. So as a remote user like I am, you're going to be able to access Axel via your web browser, just using a link in your credentials. But Axel is going to look and act the same way, whether you're working on site or you're working remotely. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And as soon as you log in, you're going to see your folders or your proxies. And essentially, the way Axel works is we're not going to ask you to organize your media in any specific way. We're not going to ask you to upload your media anywhere specific, but rather we're going to point Axel at your local storage. Axel is storage agnostic. What that means is that we don't really care what the storage is. Could be multiple storage sources, could be multiple volumes within a local storage. Basically, Axel is going to be pointed at those volumes, and what it is going to do is it is going to echo your folder structures and create proxy previews for all the existing files. So the idea is that Axel is kind of like a layer that sits on top of your storage and is going to replicate whatever is on there. And so the idea is that once that initial process is finished, where you already have your folder structures and the proxies for all the existing files, Axel is going to continue scanning the storage so that anytime a new file is uploaded, anytime something is moved, renamed, or deleted, Axel is going to pick that up automatically and replicate that on the web interface. So like I said, we're going to generate these proxies that are scrubbable, and you can use these to see a quick preview of the file. You can also obviously open a player window where you can also mark in and out points. You can add comments to the timeline, and keep in mind, all of the metadata that you're adding, both comments and subclips, will then be searchable and become part of the metadata of that asset, as well as come along to the editing software as either markers or in and out points. And so what you'll have on the left sidebar are your catalogs, so your top level folders. That could be either a volume or a folder within your storage. And then on the left sidebar, you're going to have your metadata sidebar. So on the right, you're going to see the basic file details at the very top. You're going to see the technical metadata if you want to see it. It's collapsed, but it's there and it's searchable as well. And then you're going to have the option or the ability to create custom metadata schemas. These schemas are created by each system administrator or administrators. They're entirely customizable. You can choose both the field types, the field names, and these can be used to complement the AI. So the most common use cases, or the way people work with the custom metadata schema most of the times, will be for more of a general level of tagging. There might be certain things that the AI engine is not able to recognize yet. Things like, project name or who the cameraman was. That's where the custom schema comes in. And you can use these to either tag your files on a singular basis, but you can also use this for batch tagging. So if you just ingested an entire folder of content and that entire folder was shot on Boston, you can just tag that in once, hit OK, and that will travel down and append to all those files in that folder. And then obviously we have the layer of AI that will do more of a granular tagging on each of the files. Those are the basics within Axel. It is important to note that everything that each user can see and do will be determined by the system administrator. So as a system admin, you can determine exactly what each user can see, but also what they can do in each of the folders they have permission to see. Can they download? Can they rename? Can they tag or process footage with AI? So that is a quick overview of Axel. And that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Luke, who's going to show you how you can get your footage into Axel, so how you can ingest it very quickly using ShotPut Pro.
Thanks, Elisa. So as Sam mentioned earlier, my name is Luke Gurney and I'm with Imagine Products. I'm our marketing coordinator and our partnership coordinator as well. And we've been partnered with Axel for a number of years now. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Today we'll be looking at ShotPut Studio, and specifically in ShotPut Studio, we'll be looking at the Axel AI integration. As you can see, This is ShotPut Studio. And if you're unfamiliar with what ShotPut Studio is, or ShotPut Pro, which is another one of our popular applications, it is going to be on-set media management. So ShotPut Studio deals with copying of the camera originals to a number of different destinations, as well as dealing with transcoding, reporting, creating MHL or ASC MHL seals. As you can see in this menu, you can also do drive comparisons in sync. You can do smart searches of your local storage. So there's a lot packed into this application. Just to give you a quick overview of the interface, we have here on the left all of your connected destinations. So we have S3 integrations such as LucidLink, Massive, Frame.io, and then of course Axle AI, and then your local media below that. Down here in the bottom left, you have a list of, right now, it's going to be presets. In a second, it'll be automations. Then we have the dynamic queue in the middle, where your completed and ongoing jobs will appear on the right, and then your toolbar here at the top. So first, how do you connect with Axle AI? Of course, you need to get your camera originals to a point where Axle can then see them that it's pointed at and can pick them up and import them or show them in the MAM. So to do that, you go to integrations and click the settings icon right here. And then you're going to go to Axle AI from the list here on the left. Basically, because Axle is just pointed at local storage, you are going to add a watch folder. So you click this plus icon. It can be anywhere in a local drive, on a NAS, really anywhere that you want to point Axle to, and just click open. And right here, you can see I've added Axle AI watch folder. You can add as many as you'd want right here. So you can kind of keep track of all of the different points that Axle is pointed to. So if I close out of that, you can now see I've got Axle AI listed here on the left. And if I click the drop-down arrow, I now have the folder that I added. So now we're going to go into an automation. So you can see up here in the toolbar, I go to workflows and automation. So basically what an automation is it's a grouping of copy, transcode, and report presets into one pipeline. And so it's all going to run automatically. What that looks like, if I go into Axle AI workflow, you can see I have down here these tokens, which represent my presets I've already created that you can drag and drop into the queue as needed. But you can see I already have one created here. There's 5 tokens here. This one contains 2 tokens. It's going to do the original camera ingest, so taking those camera originals, and it's going to send it to another local drive right now. On top of that, it's also going to create my daily proxies and place each proxy next to the original file, as well as create PDF reports to go with those and save them with the job. So while you're in this view, you can see just by selecting any name of the token, you can bring up the editor in the panel below. So from there, it's then going to do another backup to a slower drive of my original camera media. And then it's also going to copy it along with the reports and the transcode. So all of that is being picked up and it's all going to the Axle AI watch folder we just created. So if I click here and just drag and drop it into destinations, and you can see it's got the Axle logo here, so you can keep track of what is being sent to Axle itself, and then close out of this screen. So now you've got this set up, and if you just close out and make sure it's turned on, you can drag your footage into the queue, give it a job name if you'd like, and then click start. And you can see once I click start, the automation is going to appear over here to the right. You can see this is the full automation. So you can view progress in a few ways. Here in the upper right, you have each individual step. So the ingest with the metadata collection, transcoding and reporting. This is the backup, or sorry, that is the Axle AI watch folder copy and then the backup. You can also view it down here at the bottom. You can view it time-based, and you can view a TXT log that you can then export and share. So now that that's been completed, you can click on each of these jobs to view progress. You can view what was copied, a summary of the transcodes, as well as viewing outputs, and a preview of the report. So if I go to the Axle AI watch folder, you can see it started with the source and ended up in the watch folder itself. And so now I will pass it off to Patrice, because now that that footage has been sent to the watch folder, it's ready for automatic tagging in Axle AI's MAM.
Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it. We have been doing AI and machine learning for the past couple of years now to provide the tools to automatically apply keywords to the media that we receive. And this is actually a brand new iteration here, our latest iteration of Axel tags, which is the server. You will be able to see the media that has been processed. You will still have the possibility to train people. You still have access to the different logos and objects in our model. But one big thing is we have improved the streamlining to import new models. So for example, here, if I wanted to add a new model to my platform, I can give it any names such as car logos, choose what we are doing, classification or object detection. I'm going to stick to object detection. And from there, I will be able to then import my file and be ready to rock and roll. So here's the file being imported. I can make it active, and that will go and start to apply the model. And everything I will show you now with face, object, OCR, you can imagine the new models will have the exact same feature. By the way, we have also tracking of status of the server. And notice that I only have 8 gig of RAM, of VRAM in my GPU. That's how much you need to load everything that have just been loading in the system. So going back here is one media that has been analyzed. And you will see that in terms of face recognition, I will have Lewis Hamilton, and I will see exactly where he appears or where we do not really see Lewis Hamilton. And we have the same for the different logos, the Mercedes-Benz logo, the Ferrari logo that appears on Sebastian Vettel's shirt here. For the object, I have the watch that you will see on Daniel Ricciardo's wrist. Same thing with the hat or the headphone or even the camera. If I click on here, you will see the camera that appears that have been tagged. Same thing with the OCR, Rolex that you will see in the background, etc. So all this keywords tagging will help you determine what is in your media or whom and when. And if you have any of the new models enabled, that will be the exact same thing that you will see. So the car logos, for example, if it were enabled, I'd be able to pick up all the car logos and show you exactly where they appear. Ideal for bringing your own custom model. We have a customer, for example, who is using deep sea footage, and it needs to be able to identify the different type of fish, crabs, jellyfishes, and so on. So they have their own custom model that is being brought in and use the Axel AI platform to show in the media where each is appearing. In terms of training the face, it's very easy. You can easily take a face, create a name, and upload the faces. Here is a sample. That's what it looks like. And we are going to automatically tag. A good thing is we can also retroactively look for the faces on all our media. And I will see, for example, Sebastian Vettel appearing here. It can be in one or multiple clips, but I will be able to either create a new name and tag the person and make it searchable, or add it to my training sample and have a new person in my data set. So that's the Axel AI tag. Another thing that we have developed is the API. So now we have actually full Swagger API available for the Axel AI tag, and you will see that you can handle licensing, user creation, the search. You can have a very complex search, or you can search on speech, tag, file, OCR, and everything else. Of course, you have the different model object of logos, persons. So you have all this in-depth API available, and we have now Swagger documentation to help you develop against it. But if you use the Axel AI MAM that Elisa showed you, that I'm going to pass back over, the integration is already done, and the segment representation of face, object, and logos will also be shown within the MAM. One thing I did not show was also the scene understanding to give you a quick description of what we see, and that will allow you to search based on the context and not on the keyword, because we are in a position where we can understand what is happening. So if I search on winter, I do not necessarily rely on just the keyword winter to be present in a database, but rather AI is going to understand that somebody's skiing a shot of the mountain, a car driving in the snow, all of this is within the context of winter, and I will be able to find the media. Let's actually show you the example of how Axel AI MAM will use the auto tagging and machine learning to help you find your media. And with that, Elisa, back to you.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. So the way that you can interact with this metadata in Axel is as follows. So like I said before, we have a metadata sidebar on the right where you can find the basic file details, the custom schema, and the technical metadata. The AI metadata can be found right under the player window. Everything is searchable. You can mix and match different types of fields, including AI fields and custom fields, to be able to come up with searches and be able to find pretty much anything. Right underneath the player window, you're going to see comments and subclips. Comments will come along to Premiere or any editing software as a marker, and then subclips can be used to mark in and out points and send fragments over to a bin. So essentially to create project areas where you can gather that footage. Now, the way that you're going to use the AI is as follows. Under the player window, we have first of all, the Axel Speech tab, which is our transcription tool. You'll find the transcription on the right sidebar is both editable and exportable. You'll see that as I'm clicking on the boxes, actually moving my in and out points there, and I can edit the text if I see any typos or want to, use this for subtitles. I can search for things either throughout a specific file, like this. I can just get to the part I'm looking for, or I can use this data to do a more of a general search, like, hey, Axel, show me any file that contains this word anywhere in it. You can also export the transcription as a text or SRT file if you want to use it for closed captions or subtitles. And then we're going to have the scene understanding module. The scene understanding module will give you comprehensive descriptions of everything that happens on an asset. Obviously, this one's quite simple. As you can see, it's just three men sitting at a table, but it can get, quite detailed, and you can use this metadata to do contextual searches. These are also known as natural searches. And what a contextual search is basically you're giving Axel a prompt. In this case, I just did a very simple one, dancing, but you can do more a complex search, like show me someone that's dancing in the snow, and then giving someone a hug, or things like that. What Axel will do is it will go through your entire media library and provide a list where you can not just find the files where it found people dancing, but it will tell you exactly where in the timeline it found them. So if you hover your mouse on top of each of these frames, it will give you a little descriptions so that you can understand why it's showing you this file. And what can happen there is if you click there, it will take you directly to that point in the timeline. I'll come back to this in a second because my connection is a little bit slow. There we go. So you'll see that it actually moved my markers there, it moved my in and out point. So the most common use for this is people will do the search, they will find what they're looking for, and then they can mark it up, mark the in and out points, and send that over directly to a bin. So they can start working with that specific fragment. The same thing can be done with different, all of the rest of the AI modules. And obviously, when Axel cannot find a close or an exact match to the file you're looking for, it will give you close matches or things that things you might find helpful. So things that might be in the family of. For example, if I cannot find any file where I can see snow, it might show me a file where it found someone with a hat and a scarf, because it can understand that that file was shot in the winter, might belong in the winter. That is the scene understanding module. We also have the object recognition module. We have the logo recognition module, and the optical character recognition module, which will turn any written text on screen into a tag. So like I said before, you can either search for things using these metadata in a particular file. There's filters that will help me do that. Or you can do, and this is way more common, you can either use the contextual search to have Axel show you, any file where someone is dancing or the winter, whatever. But you can also get quite granular and tell Axel to show you files that fall under a very precise criteria. You can add as many filters as you need to what we call an advanced search, which will pop up when I click on the magnifying glass. And you'll see here that you can create a search that combines custom fields, technical fields, AI fields. So you can get really granular with it. This could look something like, I want to see any file where someone is talking about the winter, but also I need the file to have been shot in this specific location. And then I also want the file to, I don't know, have been shot in this specific date or before this date. And that's how you can build an advanced search criteria. And all of these searches, you can also save them and have them shown as a filter so that anytime a new file falls under that search criteria, it will automatically appear in that filter. And that's how you can use metadata to perform searches in Axel. And when you're searching through Axel, you're searching through your entire media library, unless you specify or you tell Axel that you need to restrict the search to the specific folder you're in. Axel will search through everything. Let's see, I think there's a question in the chat. Can the scene understanding AI learn what you're looking for based on an individual user's feedback?
I will take that one, Elisa. Thank you. So that's a question from Jason. There are different ways we can do that. There are ways in the UI. So let me actually reshare my screen so we can actually go there. I could potentially just go and edit what I'm seeing. It is not going to learn specifically something new because the task of this model is to give you a description of what it sees. So how do you actually train that? There is no real training. So a user can go and modify, and if I were to modify the text, it is going to store it and understand the context so that I can make a better search later on. So that's one option. Another thing you can do is apply different models used to provide a description. Now, we provide a quick, small, one-sentence description of a frame. In terms of speed and accuracy, we have the feeling that it is enough for most people, but we understand that other people may want more. And you could, for example, take all the latest models, the Llama 3 and others, and have a whole paragraph describing what you see. And instead of having three men sitting on a table, it can tell you, I have three men. The one on the left is wearing a blue shirt, the one in the middle a white shirt, and the one on the right is wearing a red shirt, and they are sitting and talking to a press conference. So you can have a lot more description. So you can apply different models to tell you what it sees. Because what we store at the end of the day is this description that is stored in our vector database. And this vector database is used to understand the context and help you find based on context and not keywords anymore. I hope that answers your question, Jason. With that, if there are no other questions, we may show you an application other than MAM and creating bins. Actually, you will need to create bins, but outside of the Axel MAM, how can we apply tools to find thanks to AI? And one example might be the Premiere panel. So what I'm going to do is minimize this window, and we're going to jump straight into Premiere, where you will see that I have access to the Axel panel. Just as a reminder, Axel software will monitor what is happening to your network storage and replicate whatever happens, which is why ShotPut Pro, when you finish the ingest, you'll be able to find everything where exactly ShotPut Pro placed it, and it will automatically grab the preview unless ShotPut Pro provides us the preview, which is another option. So that's the reminder. This is my network storage, and I'm going on to work on local. Elisa has been accessing the system remotely because this system that we are looking at is here with me, and Elisa is in Argentina. So using reverse proxy, you can access the server remotely. But for me, I'm just going to access the server locally, which will boost the speed. And that's how most of our customers access the system, because when you start to edit, you will have all access to the same network storage. So here's the same folder structure that we have seen. And I can easily just go and preview the clip. So the same media that we were looking at all along. And I will see here the face recognition. So again, whatever we have seen, there's face, object, etc. In this case, I'm just going to take a pic of one part where Lewis Hamilton's appear. Notice that I have the in and out points predefined, and I'm going to import the file. Now, what the panel does here is that it goes and finds the high-res media. Even though I'm playing the low-res proxy here, it is going to find the high-res media and bring it to the project. And notice that I have the in and out points. If I open now the preview window from Premiere, not Axel, and I expand, you will see that I have the in and out points predefined thanks to the AI, based solely on where this person appears. And we can do that for any AI. So that was me browsing to the clip. But let's say I want to go and perform a search. The same way that we will perform a search, and I would say, for example, either I do winter like Elisa did, and now you will see the frame popping up and the description that I have. But you can actually go, when we say you can search on the context, you can search on a full sentence. Man wearing a green shirt, for example. And here I have a man wearing a yellow shirt and green hat. Here, a man with gray hair and a black shirt. So you will be able to find different media with a green shirt, and I can click on it. I will jump to the frame. I will have again the segment selected, and I'll be able to import the media again with the segment selected. So that is your usefulness, car driving at night. So it understands, and I can ask AI just like as I would ask a person. So that's the Premiere panel and the search. And just a brief reminder, when Elisa was showing you the bins, here are the bins. So just briefly, I am going to go back to the web browser where Axel is running. And we are going to briefly look at the bins. And if I take demo one, here are all the clips that I have selected with in and out points predefined. I have different name or a whole clip. You can actually send a collection of clips as well. But I could export my XML of Final Cut Pro. But instead, what I'm going to do is just go back to the bin, get my demo one. I have everything ready, and I'm just going to import all the media. And here we are. I have my bin demo one created, and I have all the clips with their name and the in and out points predefined, ready to go, ready to be added straight to my editing. And let's take the example from Elisa for dancing, and here's the dancing part. I can expand, collapse, and here we go. So that's really the panel with Axel. So I can browse, I can search, I can find, and I can bring the media. So you can, with AI telling you what is on your storage, straight from Premiere, you can find what you need and edit right away. Let me see if there are any specific questions or if I move on to Connectr.
Actually,
Yes.
one point I thought I would make before
please.
we do that is just to talk about the general openness of the system. Like we're showing you particular options and particular configurations, but the system as a whole is designed to plug in to a wide range of third-party products. Those can include AI engines, transcribers, transcoders, and Patrice is about to show you Connectr, which is kind of our hub for integrating all of that. But it's also just worth mentioning that every component of the system has REST APIs. So the MAM, the tag software with the trainable faces, uh, everything that you've seen so far can be controlled and managed through a REST API. And if necessary, you can put a custom front end on them as well. So a very modular system architected in a very modern way.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. That's a very good point to make. So I just want to spend 5 minutes talking about Connectr. So if you remembered from my bin, I have the option to create an XML of my choice. In this particular option, I have send to Connectr. So what is send to Connectr? What is Connectr? Connectr is software that is going to help you perform complex tasks in the background. And that will not require any scripting or any coding. How do we do that? Let me show you the app. So here's the software. It can look overwhelming, but the idea is that based on rules and conditions, I am going to go from step A to step B to step C of what I need to do in the background. And it has its own API. You can call it, but because it is also our tool, we have made a direct integration with Axel, and that will allow you to call it and directly perform tasks on the media that you have found. And I could potentially also grab some file information so I can connect to my Axel system and I can get the info, but I also get the AI info. And that will help me perform tasks based on what is the AI. Let me just briefly show you what Connectr is capable of. So this is a tool that will, again, brings what we call units. These units can be organized by keywords. So I can have, for example, different events, file control, image manipulation, movie rendering, Excel spreadsheet reading, get time code manipulation, connect to a database, do some JavaScripting if I fancy some coding. I can also do some direct JavaScripting, etc. When I find something, I'm going to bring it straight into the system. So for example, here, you will see that I will be able to define, this is a watch folder transcoder that is going to create editing proxies, replicating the same folder structure that you have for the high res so that the relinking is easier. That's one example we have. And you will see that I can pick the format, so 1080p, the bitrate. So I can choose all of that and just get it cracking. I have watch folder. I get the content. I go through the content. And for each element that I have found, so for each element of my folder, I will go. And based on the height, I will branch out and call different options. Notice that we have also the case of failure so that we can always land on our feet if needed. So that is really Connectr. And if I go further along, I would recreate the same folder structure, create a directory, etc. And then at the end of the day, transcode with FFmpeg or other if I need to. Let me create a new workflow. You can have more than one workflow running in parallel. And from there, I can either right click and bring, for example, a button. You can schedule, you can make API calls to the workflows, but we're going to have just a little button. And from there, instead of the list here, I'm going to go in a third tab where I can perform a search. So I can easily find what I need and bring it over, drag and drop. Very easy, no coding required. I need to find a folder path. I'm just going to take, for example, this Coachella folder. And let me go to info and I'm going to drag and drop the path. It resolves. And I'm going to do recursive, output the files. So make some changes. Very easy to control, very easy to move. Look at all the options that you have here. And again, we organize with the right-click menu, but all the options that you can find. It's quite powerful what you can do here. So what I'm going to do now is iterate through. So I'm going to iterate through each option. And all I'm going to do is just a print, right? So we're just going to show you the context, print string. And so for each element, print string, notice that I can go and also rename this so I can track even better my task. We say show file. And everything will appear at the bottom here. All I need to do is run, trigger, and it will go through and show me all the files here. And then I can just go and start to perform tasks on the file based on what I need. It can be render, it can be archive, it can be anything we need. And with that, I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions. But that was, again, a workflow automation tool, no scripting needed, that will help you basically advance complex workflows based on rules and conditions with no scripting, no coding necessary. All right. So I would like to close out maybe my presentation with just a remark as to what will be the advantage of running Axel AI tags on premise versus the cloud. Because it is true that the cloud, you can spin GPUs and you will have a lot of compute power available that will process very fast and get everything cracking. The reality, though, is the cost for GPU renting on Amazon or any other cloud platforms is expensive. And also, if you use any kind of AI tools in the cloud, not only do you spin the GPU cloud, but you use their services as well, they are going to charge you per hour or minutes of media that has been processed with the AI. So that is the drawback. Plus the fact that customers will need to send the media to the cloud, a cloud provider whose interest is to improve their model, so they can use their content to boost their model. So your media is almost no longer yours because it is sent to the cloud being processed. That's a real struggle that a lot of people have with sending media to cloud to be processed with AI. So everything remains on premise. And like I was showing you, but I have a NVIDIA 4060 8 gig of RAM and I can run it. So it's lower the cost because you run on premise. And also it's all you can eat as a flat fee. It's not per minute. If I send 20 hours of media a day, 20 hours of media a day is going to be sent. Two, it's the same cost basically. You will not have to worry about the cost. Plus, when the models improved, for example, we are on a fourth iteration of face recognition, so we have improved quite a lot of face recognition. And AI is something that evolves so fast that you will need to think of that, of AI improving and reprocessing your media with AI. If you send it to the cloud, you will have to repay the same amount of money to reprocess again each hour of media that has been processed. Where here again, it's all flat fee and it runs on local. So I wanted to emphasize the advantage and why our customers find this solution appealing to process AI and have tagging and searchability, whether it is with contextual search. By the way, we're also bringing speech search to it, where it will be also in a contextual search aspect so that you can search on what is being said, not necessarily with the exact sentence, but also within the context. So that's my pitch for Axel tags. I'm going to wait and see if we have any questions and hand it back over to everybody else.
The other thing we did want to do, though, is maybe just give a brief preview of our next generation UI for those that haven't seen it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me reshare my screen.
And by the way, we should mention that this can be deployed in private clouds,
Yes.
and you can run it on-prem as if
Yeah.
it were cloud. So many of the inquiries and customers that we have for this are, in fact, people who have no intention of putting it in the public cloud, but need it for their organization or for their immediate customer base and want to run it as a private database, again, with the AI private to them so that they aren't using external cloud services for that. But go ahead, Patrice.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sam. That's an important clarification. So the concept is really the same. We see the content, we generate a preview. I can quickly see the preview. I can post comments on the preview with in and out points. I can scrub through the media. I can edit the metadata. You can approve or reject. One differentiating factor is that you have multiple levels of review and approval. So it's not just one status, but it's per user. The comment is also threaded, so you can actually have different people responding back to your comment or make a task where I can say, yep, it's done. That is the preview. You do have access to AI where we show you everything, but you will have also the logos, objects, and faces. And again, you put that in your private cloud with your own private AI server that will provide everything at your fingertips. So the new UI, it's a lot more modern. I can have lasso select. I will have a better share capability with password, etc. So again, being in a cloud and collaboration, it's a different aspect. The other one is mainly and for the editing folks. This one is for review and approval and production, to the point where you can have more people starting to edit straight from the web browser. So you can generate a sequence, lower third, preview straight on the web browser. If somebody posts a comment, you can preview it. You can have more than one person edit at the same time. And you can, of course, export the video, export the XML, and have also a Premiere panel that will allow you to bring this whole sequence as a project within Premiere and finish up the editing. To get started on the editing aspect and passing it along for final export is quite powerful, and especially when you have multiple people that can edit at the same time. That is the new Gen UI that you will see, refreshed but yet familiar. Just like you add storage of folders to be monitored by your Axle system, you can add your own bucket. It does not have to be our bucket. So you can have your own bucket here, and you will see the external tag that tells me that is from another bucket, and you will have the same feature where I can open, you can edit the metadata, you can have the AI, do the approval, download, you can select multiple files and download the original or proxy, etc., etc. So that is the new UI that we are hoping to actually merge between cloud, on-premise, and other tools that we have, including a mix of this with the new tool that we have here for AI.
Thanks, Patrice. That's great. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
kind of a preview of what we'll be showing at NAB next year. So thank you all for joining and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.